get to the back, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Denim. As a business owner myself, I personally know the importance of financial stability and preserving cash flow to help navigate through any freight market. With Denim's comprehensive service offering, you now have an all-in-one financial partner whose platform includes factoring, payments, freight audit, document collection management, and analytics, which help keep your business financially healthy and increase your team's time to focus on revenue-producing activities. You can also take advantage of Denim's free credit check, which they perform on all of your customers. And Denim will proactively reach out to you if they spot any signs of credit deterioration. Finally, Denim always pays your carriers first. As a broker, this is imperative to preserving your credit score in the market, which ultimately helps you become a broker of choice to your carrier partners. Are you ready to learn more? Visit denim.com to schedule a demo today. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Friday, everybody. I got a couple of very special guests for you guys here today. I'm really looking forward to this topic because I take this topic personally, because I have been on the receiving end of not getting paid for the work that I've done. And it's hard enough to build a business out there or a book of business out there, and you want to think everybody's going to pay you for the work that you do. But unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. So we're here to talk about best practices. How do we protect our business from even getting to that point? But what do we do if we have to take somebody to court out there? So I have Janie Mae and Cristina on the show today to break all of this down. So you guys, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
No, I'm really looking forward to this. And again, like, people are going to hear, I might get a little angry during this one, not at you two, but just at the fact, because if there's one thing I absolutely despise, is bad people taking advantage of the good intentions of others. And for me, it's like, it's our responsibility to go out there and put this information out there to help individuals, because where do you turn, right? Like when you're starting your business for the first time and you're going out there, you want to think like everybody's just going to take care of you, right? Like everything's going to be good, but inevitably it unfortunately might come to that point where you don't get paid. My personal was to the tune of over $10,000 that I was owed. And my attorney sat me down and said, hey, we can prove that there was work done, but there's no real contract that's in place, and you're going to pay me more money than what you're owed. So it might be best just to walk away. And, you know, fortunately, I had some money saved at that time in my business to where it didn't put me out of business, but that's not the same case for everybody. Unfortunately, there's people out there who do kind of go through that. So, you know, Janie, before we kind of jump in, we're going to start with you. Like, how'd you get started in this?
So I have been a business consultant for more than 20 years. I've helped business owners get financial clarity through their numbers. It started for me being in business for myself and not really understanding the importance of knowing your numbers. I always tell the story about one time I was struggling in my business. I had a cash flow problem. A good friend came in, asked me to look at my financial statements, and I remember he looking at my P&L and he says, "Well, you're bringing in revenue, you're making money, but your people aren't productive." And I remember asking him, or asking myself, but not the person I probably should have asked, "How do you know that?"
Mhm.
But I didn't. I just sat there. I was like, "How did he know that?" And I pretended I knew. And
Mhm.
then he looked at my balance sheet and he could see that there was so much AR in my balance sheet, uncollected money. He
Mhm.
said that too was a problem. And at the time, I really didn't know what he was looking at.
Mhm.
And from that point on, I realized that it was a hard fail for me, but it became the biggest lesson, the biggest blessing, because it forced me to understand that behind every business, regardless of what you do, there's a whole business of running that business.
Mhm.
As a former executive vice president in the trucking industry, that was one thing that I saw was a big problem. One company that I worked with, they had over $1.2 million in AR. And
Yeah.
when I spoke with the accounts receivable person, there was money that was owed more than 120 days. And I said, "Well, how are we going to get that?" She says, "Oh, we probably won't get it." So that showed me that I think business owners really need help in understanding that just because that money is sitting on the balance sheet, it doesn't make you look good to the
Yeah.
banks. It's money that you've worked for, it's money you've earned, and you got to get it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you're essentially giving out an interest-free loan at that point, and
That's
nobody
right.
gives away money for free. And so Christina, with you, with all of this, like what brought you into wanting to represent companies out there in this side of it all? Because I think that what you're doing out there it's so needed, and most people don't know where to turn when it comes to that point. And you guys, Christina is an attorney, so I want to just put this little caveat out here. Anything she says and we talk about on the show, do not take it as legal advice, because she's an attorney. She's not your attorney. And if you need an attorney, you should consult with an attorney out there. So Christina, with that being said, like kind of like what brought you into like wanting to represent companies in this on this collection phase?
Okay, so it's a funny story because it fell into my lap. It's not something that I searched to do. I initially I was an attorney in Puerto Rico, and I represented banks in lender liability suits. Uh, in 2017, I moved to Texas, but I was still representing the banks remotely in Puerto Rico. So Maria, the hurricane, came to Puerto Rico, and all the banks shut down, all the courts shut down. I had already got the license to practice law in Texas, so I got to get myself a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to interview in this small firm that represented only trucking companies, and they were just starting. And they said, "Look, we would like to do a department for collection of unpaid freight charges. Will you run it?" I had the background with the bank, so why not? Yes, of course, I'll do it. And that was 8 years ago, and I've loved what I do ever since. And this year, I opened my own firm.
No, I love that. And it's one of those, I've talked about this on the show a lot. The best move I made in business was hiring the right CPA early on, who put me in touch with the right bookkeeper who helps me stay on top of these things. But then number two, a very, very close second is having the right attorney behind you, because they're worth every penny. Because, and to Janie, your point earlier about, running your business as a business as opposed to being an operator inside of your business. I feel like that's a lesson that a lot of entrepreneurs find themselves in, and especially owner operators, right? You go for driving for a fleet. You don't really think about a lot of those things. And then you're out there and it's your name on the dotted line for the whether it's a lease
of your equipment, or it's a, you know, a loan out on your equipment. And you need to have a fiscal understanding of this. So like, what are some of those things that you have worked with your guys' as clients on? I'm like, hey, let me save you a lot of headache here. You're early enough in business, or your receivables haven't ballooned that high. Let's start putting these plans in place now to start collecting this money.
Yes. So one of the first things is tracking. A lot of times people will submit their invoice, but they're not paying attention to how long it's taking to get paid, right? So if you find that pull up your, it's an aging report. If you have QuickBooks or using a TMS system, you should be able to pull up an AR aging detail report. One, you get to see who owes you, how long they've owed you. You could do a sort if you export the report to see if a particular client comes up multiple times. But 30 days is, it's okay, right? But once you start getting into 60 and 90 days, now it's time to start taking some kind of action. One would be to make some phone calls. You want to reach out to your client and find out, one, did they receive the invoice? That's always important, because even though you may have emailed it or it was faxed over, things get lost. So you want to find out, did they receive the invoice? And if they did, do they have any questions? The goal here is to find out why you haven't been paid, but you don't want to say it like that. You just want to say, hey, this is Janie. I'm calling to see if you received the invoice. Okay, great. You did? Wonderful. Do you have any questions? And then if they don't have any questions, then your next question should be, okay, so when can we expect payment? So now you have something that you can document, like, okay, I'll send it out right away. I'll send it today, or I'll send it out in 2 weeks. The goal here is to track and document your conversations. If they didn't receive the invoice, email it again and then follow up to ensure that they got it. You want to make sure you do that and hold them to the date. If they don't, then your next conversation would be, well, we spoke on October 3rd. You shared that you were getting out that payment to me. Was there something that prevented you from doing that? Typically, what you're trying to do is preserve the relationship, but still let them know, I'm expecting my money. Once that invoice reaches 90 days, at that point, I believe now the conversation really needs to be a little bit more stern. And as a business owner, you probably want to start talking to somebody. I know Cristina and I have talked quite a bit, and she can go after it, and she typically gets it. But you definitely don't want to wait until it's 90 days before you start having your conversations with your clients.
Now, Cristina, with that being said, is there any, like, you know, obviously it's assumed that, you know, standards are net 30 on most invoices, right? And it'll list it out there, but when should you start applying a little bit more pressure in that, right? Because, and I say this from, yes, there's a lot of professional courtesy that needs to be, you know, displayed out there and stuff, but like, I don't know if enough people understand how many small businesses and even mature businesses out there are hanging on by a thread financially, and one delay in payment could cause them to lose their business, right? I don't know if enough people can comprehend that out there. So is there a time that you have advised people to, like, maybe pick up the pressure, maybe don't wait 60 days? If you can't wait 60 days, can you go through one of those scenarios?
Well, it is a two-edged sword, because if you take it to me for collections, I'm going to be very aggressive. And motor carriers do have a preferential treatment under law, so they can pursue not only the broker that hired them, but the shipper and the consignee. And everyone is going to get a demand letter from me to pay you. So once I do that, you're likely going to lose that customer. So if you want to preserve the relationship, then try it how Janie is pointing out. But if you are in strict financial constraints, then you have to be more aggressive and come to me. And more so in the brokerage business and transportation, because you have double brokerage, you have fraudulent loads. So as soon as you catch eye that the person that hired you is not the correct person down the line, you should get that to an attorney immediately, because there's no waiting there. If it's a fraudulent load, the load confirmation was made by someone that's not from that company, or it's a double broker load, then you have to get it to me as soon as possible. Don't wait 30 days, because I can even intercept payment. If they haven't paid the broker that they hired, I can intercept that payment and get that payment to you because you hauled the load.
Is now like, so I'm glad you brought, like, obviously double brokering is constantly a threat to a lot of individuals out there. And, you know, from my perspective, this is why, this is the real reason why I tell a lot of people who listen to the show, if you're a broker or a carrier, like, this is why working with the same people time and time again is always going to be the most fail-proof way to minimize being the victim of double brokering or fraud in this industry. And it does start with just having some simple conversations out there. But I feel like, you know, ultimately the people who are getting hosed the most are the legit carriers who are actually hauling this freight, that by the time it comes to light that they are on the receiving end of a double brokered load, the double broker out there has already ceased operations. There's nobody who's going to be there to answer the phone. Nobody's going to pay them. And then they end up losing their business. Not all times, but in some of those times. So it's like, how have you seen some of these individuals identify, like, hey, this load was double brokered? I know it was. Like, is there any like clear signs that we could possibly give out there to the driver community, Cristina?
Well, one thing is you can call the broker that appears in the bill of lading, because it might be a different broker than the broker that hired you, or the carrier that double broker the load. So that's a red flag right there. If you have the bill of lading and you have a broker there that's not the one that's hiring you, then there's problems with that load.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a double broker load for sure.
Do you think, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes. Another thing is that I agree with you that you should do business with brokers that you know, like, know your customer, and check if their bond is still active. Because if their bond isn't active, don't work with them. You're not going to recover if their bond is not active without hiring me, that I'm going to go against the shipper and the consignee. So that's things that you can do to try to prevent being hosed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also look at it too, some of those telltale signs, you know, as a broker myself, and we were talking about this before we went live, like if I was a driver and if there's any advice I could give to the driver community about how to spot if a broker is legitimate or not, I've never once received a load that didn't have a pickup address, receiving address, didn't have simple commodities, weights. Like, I know everything that is supposed to be on this truck prior to even booking a truck to come in and pick this up, right? So I say this because a lot of people are consumed about the money, right? Like, they're like, hey, I need to get X amount of money. So they overlook some of those soft details because they just assume that everything's just going to be okay, because 99% of the time that they've hauled freight, everything has been all right. But I'm sitting here as a broker who actively moves freight every single day. I know exactly what shipper this is picking up at. I know appointment times, or if it's first come, first serve. I know what commodity it is. I know all the load requirements that are coming on with this. I know the receiving appointment. I know all of that stuff before I tender out a load. And I say this as a point of caution. If you are ever talking to a broker and they cannot answer those basic questions, don't take the freight. Like, I know that the market is soft out there and there's not a lot of opportunities, but it could get to the point, like, if it sounds too good to be true, it never is, right? Like, I hate to break it to a lot of people out there. Like, if it's paying double of what it should, it's too good to be true, and you need to move on.
Yes. Another thing, I also represent factoring companies, and there's issues like the broker and the carrier that you are buying the receivables from is related to the broker that you're buying, that's supposed to be your account debtor, the one that's going to make payments to you. And you have a carrier that has 2 trucks, and suddenly their receivables are up $100,000 a month. And then the one that owes you the money is a brokerage that's related to the trucking company. That's fraud looking you in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know that broker is the carrier is not hauling those loads, and the broker is just issuing fake load confirmations, because the carrier doesn't have the capacity to haul $100,000 worth of shipments in a month. And that's something that the factoring companies have to look out for as well. Know your customers. Look at how many trucks they have, and if they have the capacity to haul everything that you're purchasing in the receivable side.
So, Janie, let's kind of go over to how, like, some other stopgaps that we could put into place here. I mean, how important is it, or like, what is some technology out there that you've seen? Like, I personally use QuickBooks inside of my company, and you can set up automated messaging in there where it says, hey, if it goes, you know, if it's 1 day late, send a polite notification. If it's 7 days late, send another notification. However that is. Now, how have you worked with some of your clients, you know, and again, companies of all sizes, but like to utilize some form of technology to help them stay on top of it? Because, you know, again, a lot of operators, smaller businesses out there, they're wearing 75 different hats in a day. And by the time they come to realize, like, oh, wait, there's some delayed payments going on, they don't even know where to start. So how is there any automation out there that people could start utilizing in their business to stop it from getting to that point?
Yes, and you mentioned it. You know, QuickBooks is definitely one of a very user-friendly tool to use. I've used McLeod as a TMS, and I know it has a receivables function. I'm a little old school when it comes to following up. I want to make sure if I send you a reminder, I'm not going to wait a week. I'm going to follow up with a phone call, maybe within 24 hours. And when you are wearing multiple hats, you have to remember that every business has 3, I call them the 3 legs of a stool: get work, do work, and then track and get paid. When you have that finance hat on, you have to be in that mindset of tracking and getting paid. So again, I just go back to what I said. You have QuickBooks. QuickBooks is very user-friendly when it comes to creating automations, sending emails, sending reminders. But I always get on the phone. And in our organization, we have somebody who, even after the invoice is sent and a reminder is sent, that individual will pick up the phone and contact that client and ask, did you get the invoice? Do you have any questions? And sometimes we do get them, you know, clients saying, you know, I didn't get it, or I have a question. So that's really important, because you don't want to sit and wait for your money and they never got the invoice. That's very, very important. So QuickBooks is very easy to use. If you don't know how to use it, get somebody who does. But remember that you're not just the driver, you're not just the broker, you're the business owner. You got to think like, you know, you're the CEO. You got to make that ship run. So AR is an area every single week you should be paying attention to what's owed to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm maybe a little too in-depth into my P&L every single month, but again, like I'm trying to maximize, you know, when you're bootstrapping a business, right? Like you have to make $1 of profit turn into $40 of profit essentially to build it up. And, you know, so it's like, I'm constantly watching those things. And I try and talk about this on the show a lot, right? Like, you got to be in there. You got to see where's your money going. And I would caution more people, pay attention to the smaller charges that come out throughout the month and everything else as well, just as much as the large ones, because the small ones will implement a nice little thing called death by 1,000 cuts. And before you know it, you're just bleeding out capital. and then you're not getting paid on top of that as well. But
that's true. That's true. And I know this is probably for another, maybe another discussion, but you hit the nail on the head when it comes to your cost. I know there's talk about cost per mile, but you got to make certain that you captured everything that goes into that. And before you accept a load, make sure that the numbers make sense. Is it going to cost you more to do that job than it is to, what benefit are you reaping? So that's, again, it's a conversation for another day, but you're right. You got to make sure that you've captured every single penny before you make a decision.
So Cristina, I want to switch here because I feel like a lot of small businesses and operators out there, they think we're too small, right? Like no one's going to want to take this case up, or this invoice is only $1,000. Nobody's going to want to take that on. What kind of direction could you point some of these individuals? Because I feel like I think that's what stops a lot of small businesses from taking that action about it to collect at the end of the day is they give up too soon, or they feel like, I'm too small. No one's going to care. It's just easier to quit.
Well, I personally do not handle very small claims by myself, but I do represent a collections company nationwide, and they bundle them up all together and they bring it up to me. And when it comes to me, it's much higher than just that small carrier. So that's a way to go. Their name is Baxter, Bailey and Associates, and they just bundle them together. And I'm their local attorney here in Texas, and they do all the collection efforts, making calls, sending demand letters. But when it's time to file suit, and it's in Texas, they send it over to me. And there's collections companies that will take those cases that are very small, and it doesn't matter. Carriers also have they can go to their local justice of a peace court if they don't want to incur in any fees, because the collections company do take a portion of their fees, of the freight charges. They can go to a local JP court. You don't have to have an attorney to represent you. If they reach out to me, I have a form that they can use to go to that JP court, and they can file a claim against the person that owes them the money.
So I'm a lot of drivers out there in companies, they are, they're delivering freight and potentially the lower 48 entirely, right? You're based in Texas here. Do you have to contact an attorney that is local to where, say, the load delivered or anything like that? Like kind of walk through that process of like, hey, this invoice is way aging now. And this one broker who's located, say, in Kentucky, and I delivered 7 shipments for them in the Southeast, just random states out there. Can you go to just a one-stop shop attorney like yourself, or do you have to find representation in whatever state that the shipment delivered in, or wherever the broker is located?
So there has to be personal jurisdiction over the defendant for the state where you're filing suit. But to collect in terms of sending demand letters and threatening to file suit eventually, for that could be done by an attorney that's not located in the state, either where the shipment was delivered, when the shipment was picked up, or where the broker is located. But eventually, to file suit, the court has to have jurisdiction over that person. There has to be what's called minimum contacts with that forum. Without those minimum contacts, then the court couldn't decide the case against that defendant.
Okay. No, I think that's also good to know, right? Because again, I feel like once you're in that situation for the first time, and say you've never worked with an attorney before, you might not know where to turn, right? And I think like that is another just layer of frustration that gets to most business owners is like, I don't even know what to do. They just throw their hands up and they just give up at that. And then they're like, I'll just go out there and figure it out. And, I think that there are a lot more resources out there for small businesses, especially trucking companies and freight brokers alike, that they're not even aware of. And, you do need to know where to turn. And it's an unfortunate situation that a lot of us I hope most people don't find themselves in it. But if you're in that situation and you're owed tens of thousands of dollars, like you have to fight for it. But again, like you also need operating agreements and stuff between your, you're a broker and a carrier or whatever that looks like. You need to protect your business. And, to start, I feel like you have to, like, again, protecting your business, but you need to have these in place, right? Like, you have to look at yourself as a business owner, because once it gets up to Cristina, I don't want anybody to have to hear what I heard, right? Where it's like, hey, yeah, we have a case here, but it's going to cost you way more money. This is how you could have avoided it. This is why I personally now operate off of a contract. It's not that I don't want to trust people. Like, I'm from the Midwest, right? Like, I blindly trust everybody I meet, but I have to protect my business because my company is an actual asset. All right. And it is something that is worth value. And not everybody operates off of that handshake agreement. So as we're kind of wrapping up here, Cristina, what is something that you want to see more carriers or brokers do to potentially not, I mean, I want people to hire you, but like to potentially not have it come to this point?
My best advice is know your customer. When you deal with a customer for the first time, do the due diligence and learn what they do, if they've been in business for a long time, if they have credit, check their references, because you're going to continue doing business with them, hopefully for a long time. So do the due diligence at the beginning, and then implement Janie's processes for collection.
Perfect. Janie, what about you? What's one piece of advice as we're wrapping up here that you would love to see more individuals do inside of their business?
In addition to what Cristina said, I think thinking like a CEO, being a business owner. It's not just an operator. You're not just a driver, right? That is one of the things that I would see in the industry. The drivers would talk like that's all they are. You are a business owner. You run this economy. You help so many people, but help yourself. Think like a business owner. Look at yourself as an entrepreneur. Pay attention to your financials. And if you don't understand those numbers, get someone to help you understand not only what they are, but what they're telling you. Build yourself a cash management system so that you can gain financial clarity, so that it doesn't get to the point where, oh my God, now I'm desperate and my business is on the brink of shutting down because I haven't been paid. Know what the warning signs are, what the red flags are. And if you don't have an attorney, get one. Even if it's just someone that you consult once a month, it's worthwhile.
No, that's great advice, you guys. Janie, Cristina, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate it. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys have any questions for Janie or Cristina, hit them up, you guys, directly. And if you guys can't find them out there, I will put you guys in direct contact with them. But that will be it. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, you guys subscribe to the show. And if you're feeling ambitious after this one, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you saw value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.